So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this 20th webinar in the series, the Reclaim Network Plus webinar series. So we've got two speakers today, but I'll give you a little bit of information about the network first. We change slide. Charlotte, do we want to change slide?
It should have changed.
It's not changed on my screen.
Anyone else? Can you see it changed? No? Oh, hold on.
Might need to move your cursor over it and then change.
Let me try sharing it again. Sorry about this. Is this working?
It hasn't changed at my end.
Oh. Yep. Is it working now? Yep.
How come it's not changing at my end?
Oh, no.
Oh, dear.
Hold on. Let me stop and start sharing again, see if that works. Any luck, Lauren?
That's on the second slide now.
Okay, good.
Apologies for the technical glitches. Microsoft have updated the Teams software. Okay, so a bit about the network. So Reclaim is an urban-focused network focusing on green, blue and grey infrastructure. So there's 5 core partners. The network's run by Professor Kumar. And we've got myself, Laurence Jones at UK Centre for Ecology and Hydrology. So Prashant Kumar's at Surrey, Neria Calvillo is University of Warwick, Thomas Kelson at University of Bath, and Sheena Mallam at Bangor University. And we have a network manager and project officer, Mark and Charlotte, supporting this webinar call today. Next slide. So the aim of the network really is to link academics, practitioners, so people actually dealing with green infrastructure on the ground on a day-to-day basis, people trying to understand more about it and the benefits it provides. So we've got a wide range of network members, nearly 550. So a mix of academic, student, NGOs, local government, businesses, etc. And interested in a wide range of topics, you know, from very specific things about trees or green roofs right through to much more holistic approaches around public health and well-being. And we've got network members all over the world, but it's predominantly a UK-focused network in terms of the aims of the funders. Next slide. So the webinar series run monthly at the moment, and we've got an extension to the network. So the webinars will run until February 2025, and they run on the first Wednesday of every month. So the format is we have 2 speakers, and the talks will be around 20 minutes each. And then we have time for questions at the end. So we run the 2 talks first, and then we have questions, but you can put questions in the Q&A at any time. So please use the Q&A. And, you know, just as you think of a question, put it down, say who you are, what organization you work for, and who the question's directed to. Previous webinars so the webinars recorded and previous webinars are on the YouTube channel, so you can always come back to it later if you missed something. Next slide. And if you're interested in presenting your work as one of the webinar talks, then please contact us. Okay, so I'm just going to introduce the speakers now. So we've got speakers are Shelly Dewhurst, who's a Green Infrastructure Programme Manager at Bath and North East Somerset Council. And the second speaker is Sisay Debele, who's a Research Fellow at the Global Centre for Clean Air Research, University of Surrey. So Shelly is as I said, she's the Green Infrastructure Programme Manager at Bath. So I'm just bringing up her bio. So along with the WaterSpace team, she works on a number of river-based improvement projects, including the Bath River Line, which is an urban regeneration project through Bath. WaterSpace Connected, which is a rural strategic green infrastructure project connecting to neighbouring authorities, and the Better Moorings project, and a range of water quality and flood resilience projects. So I'll hand over to Shelly now, and you've got around 20 minutes.
Great, thank you, Laurence, and thank you for having me. I will just share my slides now. Go on to presenter mode. So hopefully you can see that. So yeah, as Laurence said, I'm the WaterSpace Green Infrastructure Programme Manager for the Avon Corridor, and I kind of run a load of projects that are related to the rivers and the canal through the Bath and North East Somerset Council. So today I'm going to give some examples of the work I do, and also what we're doing to kind of improve our waterways through Bath and North East Somerset. Just to give you a flavour of the unitary that I work for, so Bath and North East Somerset, or BANES as I will call it throughout this presentation, it's relatively small unitary. We've got about just under 200,000 population, of which half live in Bath. I guess it's interesting to understand the history of the politics in our region, because we're very close to Bristol, and we work very much with our neighbouring authority, South Gloucestershire and Bristol and North Somerset, the former county of Avon. We've rebranded as the West of England, but we do work together, particularly on strategic issues around kind of transport and jobs, and more recently looking at kind of nature recovery projects, because as we know, nature knows no boundaries, etc., or political boundaries. So if I just talk a little bit about Bath, I'm sure there's lots of people who visited Bath or know Bath. It's a World Heritage Site. So we're one of 2 cities globally that have the UNESCO World Heritage. The whole city is designated as a World Heritage Site. You can put in the chat or the Q&A if you have a guess of which is the other whole city. And actually we've got 2 UNESCO designations, one because of the Roman baths and the Georgian architecture, and the other recently is around the Great Spas of Towns of Europe, I think it's called. But the reason I'm talking about this is because integral to that designation is the green setting of Bath and the landscape of it. So you can see that purple line, that kind of shows our green setting. And that's really important. And included in that is the river and the impact the rivers had on the city, the way the city was designed, the topography of the city. So it plays a key part in our UNESCO designation. And we're looking now about how we kind of rebrand the city as a landscape city, because it's really easy to get out and just really enjoy the natural environment. So that's something we've been working on as a council. So in terms of the river itself, we've got the Bristol Avon. You might know this, but Avon actually means river. So we're the River, and I think we're one of 8 or so Avons across the country. So we're the Bristol Avon, which annoys us a bit in Bath because it should be the Bath Bristol Avon. But the river itself is about 83 miles long and kind of meanders through Wiltshire into BANES, and then it makes its way out via Bristol and the Severn Estuary. It does play a key role in our city. You know, it is kind of centre of the city, and you can see what the top, hopefully you can see my cursor, the top picture there. There's a series of weirs that made it navigable, and that's our most famous weir, the Horseshoe Weir. Again, like many cities, it historically was very industrial along the river edge, and we've recently seen a lot of development and new communities springing up along the river edge that is kind of changing the nature of our riverside. This picture here, the top right, is taken within the city, so you can see it's also a really important green corridor and nature corridor. We've got otters, beavers. It's a dark corridor for bats. It's really important for bats, and you can see the kind of nature right through the city. There's a historic towpath as well, so that's now a Sustrans cycle route. It's the main cycle route that connects Bristol to Bath, so really popular cycle route. In the summer you get over 2,000 people using it. The river has been heavily canalised and modified, and you can see here the piling. So we are, slightly restricted in terms of what we can do, but it's also a great way to just leave the city and get out to the countryside. And you can see it kind of goes very rural quite quickly as well. So that just gives you a flavour of our river. So my work really kind of started from this piece of work in 2017, which was the WaterSpace study. So prior to 2017, I think river issues had been rising up the agenda, and what we realised were there wasn't really one agency or organisation. Well, the organisations that were looking after the river, it was quite disparate, and we weren't joined up, and we were all doing different things. So we came together, that was ourselves, the council, Wessex Water, the water company, the Environment Agency and the Canal and Rivers Trust, and developed the WaterSpace study. And it is, as it says, really, it's a study, and it identified a vision and ways in which we could work together to improve our water spaces. It was developed around 5 themes, and we identified 35 projects within it that are now kind of in delivery. And the key one I'm going to talk to today, because it's our urban one, is the Bath River Line. So the Bath River Line, really, it's a combination of a few projects from the WaterSpace study. And the idea behind it is that we rejuvenate, reinvest, regenerate the riverside in Bath, which is looking quite tired and does need to be invested in. And the idea is that by looking at the river, the riverside, the adjacent green spaces, the public realm, we create a single unified linear park that follows the river right through the city, and that people can access, and we encourage nature in. It's a huge project, so it's being delivered over 3 phases. Phase 1 is to the western end of the city, so that's just being delivered at the moment. And then phase 2 is the eastern end of the city, and then phase 3 we're working through the centre, which is probably the most constrained and probably, most challenging bit to deliver. So the objectives of the Bath River Line really are, there's 4 overarching objectives. Firstly, we want to create connections, so enhance and expand the active travel route. If you've ever been to Bath, it's incredibly hilly. So this is probably the only long distance, flat, kind of off-road path that is accessible. So we want to improve that. We want to restore and reveal the biodiversity and the habitats that are adjacent to the river and make sure they're doing as much as they can for nature. We've declared an ecological emergency and climate emergency, like a lot of councils. So this is a key green infrastructure route through our city. We want to reimagine the riverside so that people can use it. Like I said, we want it to be a linear park, so that and it's safe and inclusive. And finally, we want to create new economic opportunities. So we get a lot of tourists to Bath. They tend to go to the Roman baths, do a bit of shopping, and then jump on a coach. So we want them to come to Bath and spend a bit more time and experience new experiences, and experience some of the kind of natural environment that we have surrounding the city, which is so lovely. We've got our work cut out. Hopefully you can see that, like I say, at the moment, it's a bit of a neglected corner of the city for various reasons. And we've got lots to do. The benches and the street furniture are in a real state. You can see the kind of bad quality of them. You can see that the path has been encroached and is getting narrower and narrower. The wayfinding and the signposts, that's actually pointing the wrong way. So there's a lot of work to do around that. The steps and the access points are just not up to modern standards. So we've got a lot of work to do to improve them. So phase 1, the western end, we've got 7 key interventions being they're just about to start construction this year. We've got 5 pocket parts along the route, the riverside path and the river edge. So they're all being improved in the public realm. We're also undertaking a bat lighting pilot. So at the moment it's a Sustrans route, but it's not lit because of the bat population using that river corridor as a dark corridor. So we want to test whether it is possible to find a lighting solution. It might not be, but we're going to do some tests. We're working with Bath University on that. We want to improve the wayfinding and the interpretation. So I think a lot of people are familiar with Bath's Georgian and Roman history, but this is Bath's industrial heritage as well, which is particularly relevant to the riverside. We've got some public art to put in to kind of celebrate the area. And alongside that, we're running lots of community events and volunteering. This has been funded a mixture of private investment through development and also the West of England Combined Authority. So we've got 2 million for this first phase. So this is an example of one of the pocket parks. You can see it's just short grass. You know, even those benches, if you put your legs out, you're going to cause a hazard to the cycle path. So it's you know, really not very inspiring. And so this is one of the interventions that we'll be doing, where we're kind of taking it and improving the biodiversity and how people use the space. So that's our Bath Riverline project. Just wanted to touch as well on another project we're running called WaterSpace Connected, which is our rural project. As I said at the beginning, we're very, very close to Bristol, and there's actually a footpath that goes all the way along the River Avon Trail, and it touches these market towns between the two cities. So we're working on that to improve the trail, and we're focusing our attention around Keynsham and a development at Somerdale. And as part of that project, we have developer contributions to build a bridge, a much needed crossing at this part of the river, which opens up kind of South Gloucestershire and Keynsham, if you know the geography, but it'd be a really important crossing that currently doesn't exist. We are working with the developers to create a river park. It's a huge expansive area. It's floodplain, it floods, so we're going to do some wetland creation. And also improve the connections and the path so that more people can use it. So this isn't the final bridge design, but this just gives you a sense of what we're doing and a sense of the size of the land that will be turned into a river park. So again, it's just using private investment, public investment to kind of lever money to create something that's a bit bigger than the sum of its parts, which is a lot of what we do in our team. Just very quickly, we've got some other notable projects. So we've developed water guidance on bats for water size development. We have a mooring strategy that's just being developed to improve the quality and quantity of mooring provision in the city. We've got beavers to the east of the city, and they're moving downstream. So we're expecting them to kind of make their way through Bath. And so that's very exciting. We've also implemented a range of safety measures. These are bespoke safety cabinets that we installed because we found safety rings just get vandalised. And so this is a much better solution, as well as as you saw, it's very canalised. So if people fall in, it's really difficult to get out. So we put in ladders and grip ropes. This is our volunteers relaying after the canal. We improved the footpath, relaying the listed cobs, and so that was just something that we did. And we've also got a fish recovery strategy, looking at the removal of barriers to fish passage, so weirs and the like. So lots going on. We've got a volunteer workforce. So a few years ago we bought the volunteers a couple of boats. They do all sorts of activities. They run I think it's about 3,000 hours a year. And they do all sorts, as you can see, lots of litter collection. The amount of shopping trolleys they've pulled out the river is unbelievable, but they also do habitat creation. They maintain the locks, they paint them. So that's something we run in partnership with Canal and Rivers Trust. We have engaging people and communities. So one of our overarching objectives is to raise the profile of the river. They say in Bath that we turn our back on the river, so we want to bring the river in centre stage. So we run a number of events and campaigns, whether it's water quality. We've run some bio-blitzes and some water blitzes with citizen science, kind of collecting water samples, as well as public art and poetry around the value of the river within Baines. So that's a really important strand of the work that we do. It's not all rosy. We've certainly got our share of challenges. So we want people to access the river. We want people to use the river, and we've certainly noticed since the pandemic an increase in paddleboarding and canoeing. And whilst we want that, that does come with its own challenges. We know there's certain locations where canoes get dragged over the riverbank and it's causing erosion. There's obviously safety concerns. So, you know, all of this stuff needs to be carefully managed. This photo of this poor lady with a pram, you know, we must maintain a high quality standard for our public realm. We're always going to have issues with littering and graffiti and vandalism. You know, that's always ongoing, and how we manage that. And then finally, just last week, the river was as high as I've ever seen it. So we know flooding is a huge issue. We're a historic city, and we're going to have to manage that going forwards. And that is something that's just going to get worse and worse. So key achievements. So working in partnership has really been key to everything we've achieved in Baines, like working with the Environment Agency and the Water Company and the Canal and Rivers Trust has been a real success. We've built a strong team. So when I started, it was just me, and there's now 5 of us. We're all externally funded. We've attracted a lot of external funding to grow that team, grow the expertise, grow the experience. And I think we have definitely, you know, in my time, I've seen the awareness of river issues going up the agenda within the council and members of public, and also the political agenda. We're a Liberal Democrat council, and their manifesto last year really talked about water quality, about the Bath River line, things that I don't think you would have seen a few years ago. And again, it's not just the work we're doing. I recognise there has been a kind of national awareness of river issues. We've attracted 8 million in funding to deliver the programme, so that's been quite good. What we've learned, rivers are complex. Management of rivers is complex. Land ownership is complex. Responsibility, legality. It's not an easy thing to kind of understand and get your head around. It's also not a quick fix. You know, you need time and resources and people to drive this agenda forwards. The nature of our programmes, it's been particularly good for kind of building business cases, because you can look at things like sustainable transport funds, ecology, climate, economy. So we've been able to build quite a successful business case. We're prepared, the WaterSpace study and various other works. We've got this series of shovel-ready projects. So when opportunities do arrive, we can move quickly. You know, a lot of the riverside is being developed, so there is developer contributions that we could use to support our programme. And we've really had to think creatively about maintenance. Like probably most councils across the country, you know, we are really struggling with our revenue budgets to look after some of this green infrastructure. It can be you can get the capital funding, but it's got to be looked after. As we know, to have good quality green infrastructure, it needs to be well maintained. So that's always been a challenge. Okay, so I've just kind of rattled through our programme. So I thought it would be helpful just at the end. I've got a 2-minute video, so I'll just stop sharing. And then you can kind of see it for yourself.
The sound isn't working.
Sound's not working. Okay, I'll try again. Sorry about that. We worked that one out, didn't we?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, got it.
WaterSpace Connected is a visionary landscape project focused on the River Avon. This stretch of the river provides a lush habitat teeming with wildlife, surrounded by natural landscapes just waiting to be discovered. We are working together to improve the river valley, making footpaths more accessible and encouraging nature to flourish between the 2 iconic cultural hubs of Bath and Bristol. The project's focus is to improve the River Avon for everyone, including paths for walkers, new routes for cyclists, and access for rowers and paddleboarders, so we can all create important connections with nature. The River Avon is already a haven for wildlife. But now, more than ever, nature needs our help. We have declared an ecological emergency, and we need to act now. From creating sanctuaries for fish and places for birds to thrive, to enhancing woodlands and restoring riverside habitats. This project will improve biodiversity to help nature recover. The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted the importance of having access to open spaces and the physical and mental health benefits it provides. By improving the access to and along the river, we aim to encourage more people to experience nature, to enjoy everything it has to offer, and to treasure this unique landscape.
Okay, that's me done.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Shelley, for that really inspiring talk and perfect timing as well. So if you've got any questions, please put them in the Q&A. And now we'll move on to Sisay's talk. So Sisay has a PhD in statistical hydrology. He's got 2 master's degrees in hydrology and quantitative water management and meteorology science. His research focuses on the interplay of climate change, non-stationary frequency analysis, and application of probability and statistical models to hydrological design problems, multi-risk assessment, sustainable development, and nature-based solutions modeling. So I will hand over to Sisay now. You've got 20 minutes, Sisay. Over to you.
Thank you, Laurence. Let me share my screen. Thank you all. Today I came with the project which is funded by the Reclaim Network with the name LivGBGI, or Living Lab Demonstration of Green, Blue, Grey Infrastructure for measuring or evaluating multiple co-benefits of natural hazards such as heat wave, flood, and the drought. So this work is actually delivered or done by a LivGBGI project team. Thank you for all your hard effort. Without you, this cannot be achieved. Thank you, Dr. Jitendra Sahani, Sohila, David Fletcher, Professor Laurence, and Professor Prashant Kumar. Thank you for your hard effort and contribution. So my next slide will be, I already explained this one as well, project teams. The teams are came from 2 different organizations. One is from UKTH and me and my colleagues from the University of Surrey. Each project team has got their own role within the project. The overall aim and expected output of this project is why we wanted to actually evaluate or monitor the efficiency of green, blue, grey infrastructure because the benefit, the green, blue, grey infrastructure can help to reduce heat wave, for example. Simultaneously, they can also provide the co-benefits to human, let's say human, and to human, or to the environment, let's say flood or drought or other natural hazards. Plus, they do also have economical benefits. So we wanted to evaluate those associated benefits, direct benefit and co-benefits. What we are expecting actually within this project, we are going to establish case studies that can be facilitated, the best practice or the lessons learned, which helped the practitioners, to upscale, replicate the benefit of, or the multi-benefit of a green blue gray infrastructure. We will generate empirical and a model data set that can directly feed into the GBGI databases. In the Reclaim network, we have a database that can serve for the end users. So the other expected output or milestone from this project is synthesizing the results that created in the form of scientific publication, policy previews, and guidance, and also simple the video that can be public-faced video that can be accessible for the wider audience. So in this project, we have a framework actually to follow and to develop our case study explained earlier. The first actually step is to follow participatory approach. That means we bring stakeholders and raise awareness through focus group discussion, through interview, through question. Then we use this information and knowledge actually into the modeling aspect. Then this follow with the monitoring. We have got a network of sensors deployed across the Guildford Living Lab, GLL. So those sensors are measuring 6 natural area, GBGIs, and 1 built up, or we call it gray areas. So this will feed into the modeling to evaluate, numerical models to evaluate the flood and also noise mitigation of the those green, blue, gray infrastructures. My next slide is about the awareness and the perception of heat wave. So as I said earlier, we prepared questionnaires around 30 questions, which is covering about the cause, triggering factor or cause of those natural hazards, and impact or loss, what they actually produce, what they actually make or without. Let's say if we let them not actually mitigating, what they will do on the property, human life, and other infrastructures, and the mitigation measures. So these questionnaires, 30 of them are covering actually 3 main aspects of the 3 main aspects. Following this one, actually around 150 respondents from the south east of England. So let's say among those respondents, demographics and the socioeconomic are covering, for example, gender, 53% is female. For example, housing, 31%. Just living on flats, 51% on they love to live on the ground floor. Healthy status, I think 56% is not actually vulnerable. So the perception, we also analyze the perception of the those hazards, especially the heat waves. So about actually 54% are concerned about those multi-hazards or natural hazards. 53% are actually they have fear, and 79% they think like can be controllable. When we came to the behavior or measures they are taking during the extreme heat waves, 70 and we divided also this into during the heat wave, are they traveling, or the measures they are taking, for example, a natural way or artificial way, that is like man-made measures. So for example, among the mitigation or indoor cooling, some around 22% are using fans, 22 again fans and ventilations, overall around 44%. Surprisingly, GBGIs are most of the respondents said around 70% of them are saying they just use like a balcony or green garden, rain garden, or a small garden, like green, blue, gray structure. Then by saying this one, the next slide will present the location of the those 7 sensors deployed within the Guildford Living Lab. Those are the location where we have actually. Previously, there were, I think we deployed them on 4 places. Now we extended, with the support of this project, we extended 3 more locations. The right hand side, Pocket Park, Green One, and the mixed. Mixed, when you say like a forest mixed with the water, like a riparian kind of wood trees. The orange color is a bike path. Actually, this work is actually done by Dr. Jitendra Sahani. The paper is actually published on the Environmental International. Here is the link. Actually, anytime you can have a look at this paper. And we have also videos to the heat wave, which is a 2-minute video, nice one, that shows the efficiency of those green, gray, blue infrastructure. Okay, the other thing is how, using those monitored data, we try to calculate the heat in how those GBGI, different GBGIs are reducing the heat wave in terms of duration and the intensity. As you can see, in for example, the x-axis is showing you the dates, and the y-axis is showing you the temperature, which is our intensity or magnitude of the temperatures. So in 2021, there were a monomodal heat wave, not like the 2022. We have got actually 2 bimodal heat waves in August and in July. That was actually the recorded heat wave, which happened in the UK. So, for example, the intensity, as you can see, woodland actually reduces more the heat than the other natures, or when we compare to the woodland with the built-up area, woodlands are more efficient than the other natures. So, by saying this, I will try to summarize this figure in very nice way. This is the delta. That means the difference between built-up and nature. For example, as you can see in the blue text, woodland produced, let's say, 5 days cooler than the built-up area, while it provides also 1 cooler days when it's compared to the water body, 2 days when it's compared to the grassland. That is consecutive cooling days. Overall, when we sum up this one, overall cooling efficiency or GBGI reduces the heat wave intensity and the duration, 6.1 degrees centigrade, and also cooling efficiency, and also 5 days consecutive cooling day in 2021, and 5.2 degrees centigrade and 11 cooling days, consecutive days as compared with the built-up area. Then the other thing is we also computed how multi-hazard or cascading hazard actually triggers themselves. For example, heat wave, a consecutive dry days can also trigger the heat wave can also trigger, meteorological drought, lack of rainfall. Then this meteorological drought can be, propagate into the soil moisture, then soil moisture to hydrological drought, then hydrological drought overall, then again propagate into this socio-economical drought. For now, we try to evaluate how those heat waves triggering the agricultural or soil moisture droughts. So we computed the potential evapotranspiration. As you can see, we computed potential evapotranspiration for 3 natural places, and compared with the built-up, compared with the built-up areas. So overall, as you can see, again, woodland produces less, actually produces better or keep the moisture within the actually environment by preventing or regulating the microclimate of the environment. So in 2021, around 35.2 millimeter per day is actually benefited because of the woodland when we because of the GBGI, overall GBGI, when we compare with the built up area. In 2022, where the extreme heat wave there, around 36.1 millimeter per day was actually is the benefit of having having the GBGIs in place when we compare with the areas without GBGIs. So then how this can be propagated into drought? So we measured the drought indices called reconnaissance drought index, RDAI. RDAI were computed and compared, measured with three. We computed the drought indices for three months, 6 months, and 12 months. Those are actually the indices. When it is RDAI is greater than 2, it says like extremely wet. We are not interested actually here because we are looking for the droughts. That means we need to look into the greater than, between 0 to 9 minus 0.999, nearly normal or mild normal or below actually. So surprisingly, in 20, I think this is, for example, in 2021, only built up area actually shown as a drought, while natural area, none of natural area has given any droughts. They have given, normal conditions, while the built up or the gray areas are producing the droughts. Again, if we compare, actually, if we summarize this one in the delta form, again for the duration, actually for the 3 months, as again woodland produces temporal, in terms of temporal cooling, for consecutive 3 months, again woodlands are reducing the temperature by 6.6 degrees centigrade. Mostly woodland is the most efficient when we compare with the other natures and with the built up areas. Overall, comparing all GBGIs with the built up area in 2021, there were 4.99 degrees centigrade reduction or cooling efficiency were produced by those GBGIs. GBGIs implemented within the Guildford Living Labs. Again, in 2022, also 4.6% degree centigrade were produced. These are the efficiency where we just computed. The next is, for example, the extreme. If you see on this bar graph, in 22, there were extreme heat wave. This heat wave is also reflected into the actually the drought into soil moisture. As you can see, it is extremely drought. It has given extreme drought, especially the built up area. While, for example, the woodland again produce lesser actually droughts. More or less nature-based or GBGIs are actually producing almost similar results, almost with the less difference among them, very minimal difference among the nature. So let me summarize this figure as well. We have also done, the delta, the difference between GBGIs and the nature. So as you can see, again, woodland produces actually good benefits than the other GBGIs, but overall around 0.6 for RDAI index or weight index is produced when we compare with the built-up area in 2021, and in 2022 around 0.25 RDAI indices were produced, or it's weighter than the actually the built-up or gray area when we compare with that. The next thing is we also evaluated actually a flood using HECRAS or numerical models. First of all, what we have done is we just use the Wey River in the Guildford at a catchment or case study areas. So the 2D HECRAS used and steady flow were used. Those are the land use. Actually, we classified into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 classes. Then we use those land use to vary mining or roughness coefficient within the 2D HECRAS models. So to simulate the model, the boundary condition upstream BC, we used the inflow hydrograph. We tried to actually mimic the model or use the model to mimic the flood events that were happened in 2013 or 24, where in a lot of actually property or other infrastructures were damaged because of these extreme floods. So in the downstream, actually, we used the normal depth, which is frictional slope. This figure is showing you this figure is showing you actually the setup of the model with the 2D mesh and the downstream boundary condition, the flow, the computational points, the terrain, actually on the digital elevation map, upstream boundary conditions. This is the river center lines, the flood plains. So this is a model setup. What we have done within this model, we tried to implement, the first thing is we try to implement a 3 nature-based solution in the upstream and the downstream to evaluate the location or the preference or the place where we implement nature or GBGI is also, it matters or it affects their efficiency, because efficiency depends on the typology where you implement, like, location, climate, and also, socio-economical other activities. So to now this we just implemented actually on upstream and downstream. As I said, we have used, this is the hydrograph actually. This is the flow hydrograph of the Wey River, and we just taken those extreme events or extreme hydrograph. This is actually the trimmed one, the down figure, the below figure, the below panel is showing the trimmed one. This is actually the location of those GBGIs within the HECRAS model. The next slide is just the result of the model. Flood inundation or depth and velocity. I mean, flood characteristics can be explained in terms of velocity, depth, or flow, or the extent, or the inadequate. And so to show this one, for example, the left-hand side figure, which is flood velocity, meter per second, is showing the red one is like the highest value. Always in the downstream, we will have high velocity because the water is coming from different tributary and joining and coming together and making a huge impact in the downstream. Actually, this is showing you the flood depths. Then we also computed the deep analysis of those benefits. For example, if you see this figure, actually upstream, mostly actually the attenuation point, like a reservoir in the downstream, is really helping to attenuate the quick flow or the flood, or especially if the flood is actually came from the how to say flash, if it's a flash flood, or if it is because of the huge amount of rain within short duration and high intensity. Again, in the upstream and the downstream, the attenuation point is providing actually, or the water bodies or a reservoir providing better benefits with 0.6 meter depth increment, decrement. Okay. The other one is actually velocity. We also evaluated the velocity of flood velocity. As you can see from this figure again, in the upstream of the river, again, woodland is, the vegetation. If we plant vegetation in the upstream, they will, because the vegetation can act actually as a, they slow down through the infiltration and helping the groundwater recharge. So they can be good if we implement them in the midstream or upstream. So because of that, woods or vegetation-based GBGIs can help the flood or the velocity reduction in the upstream, while the water-based solution like attenuation ponds or the wetlands can be helpful in the downstream, where the excessive amount of water is coming from the different tributaries all together in the downstream. The next is also velocity. I think this is the same thing I'm saying. Okay, this slide is actually talking about flood flow, the flow in meter cube per second. As you can see, I think this is also following the velocity profile, because flow and the velocity is directly proportional. For example, the red lines are without GBGI. So with GBGI, as you can see, the hydrograph is lowering when we use the green and the gray blue structures, infrastructure. So they have the potential to reduce actually the peak flow and bring down the quake flows to increase the base flow and remove the quake flow. That is the benefit of actually green, gray, blue infrastructure. As you can see, woodland is again providing the better benefits than the compared with the other compared with the built-up areas. I mean, compared with other natural areas. Okay.
Sisay, can I ask you just to start bringing it to a close? I don't know how many more slides you have.
I think this is the last slide, actually.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the last slide is actually, this is the other hazard is, I think this is my fourth hazard, right? So noise mitigation. So this noise mitigation is done by David Fletcher, actually. I'm not a noise mitigation expert, but I'll try my best. So because of the presence of woodlands or green blue infrastructure, for example, woodland, this is actually the unit with decibels, which is the oranges are actually, yellows are showing the high, and these are low, the mitigation efficiency of those woodlands. So as you can see from the tables, around actually, because of the presence of those woodlands, around 15.6 buildings were mitigated. Around 20,000 people were actually mitigated because of from those noise generated by different actually noise producing events, maybe traffic or other things. So those are the benefits per actually hectare or per woodlands. So overall, if we implement actually GBGIs strategically, when I say strategically, we need to select species properly. We need to identify the proper location. We need to identify the climate where they actually implemented and the topography. They can give us actually the good thing, considering the climate change as well. Otherwise, there will be associated trade-off in their benefit, because they can create maladaptation rather than giving positives. They will give negatives actually. So. Overall, the efficiency of GBGI depends on the location, as I said, and their typology. Vegetation-based like woodland would work well in the upstream, while water-based solution like ponds would be more effective in the downstream, reducing the floods. Okay, flood in the forest, like woodland and the forests are most effective green-blue infrastructure for the multiple hazards. As you can see from my presentation, throughout all hazards, woodlands are giving, the best. So on average, if GBGI had been implemented during the winter flood of 2013 or 2014, it would have been reduced the flood velocity, depth, and the flow by 0.24 meter and 0.187 meter per second velocity, and 15 meter cube per second, the flood flow can be reduced during that flood events. So overall, GBGI can be are promising, as you can see from the presentation, but carefully planning and the consideration is needed for effective implementation and to avoid maladaptation and unwanted economical losses. So this is further reading actually about the this project. Those are the papers which is related to this project. This is the homepage, the blogs, and we have also video about the actually the those hazards. Thank you. I will hand the floor to Professor Laurence. Thank you everyone for your attention. And
thank you
for
very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sisay. That was a really interesting talk. So quite different from Shelly's talk, but just illustrating another angle of what the Reclaim Network's trying to do. So please put some questions in Q&A. Just to start us off, I've got a question for Shelly. Sorry, do you mind stopping sharing, Sisay, just so we can see everyone? Yeah, question for Shelly. So there's a huge amount going on in terms of biodiversity monitoring. You didn't really mention much about public perceptions. So I was wondering if you'd done any work to perhaps consult with the public first before designing the schemes, or perhaps seeing how the public perceive these changes and whether they're broadly positive or whether you've got any resistance to that.
Yes, so as part of our planning application and also the whole project, we've consulted with different community groups throughout. I mean, I think it's fair to say at the moment the Riverside is pretty neglected. So anything we do to improve this will be important. We ran a formal consultation with different users, so people with accessibility issues, people from Black and minority ethnic backgrounds, as part of the development. So yeah, that has been key to developing the programme actually. And actually now this is my own perception, is that people are much more aware of things like sewage and water and river courses. So I think the public are a lot more motivated to talk about these things at the moment. Wild swimming is very popular in our region, and that, has we've got very groups that are really pushing us about water quality. So yeah, I think, yeah, getting the public on side has been key.
How much of that is a sort of requirement that you have to do this consultation? And because obviously it takes resources to kind of do some sort of structured assessment of public perception. So I was just wondering whether you're doing that, or you're planning to do that as well.
Yeah, well, we've gone beyond. So we've done the statutory consultation that you have to do with the planning application, and then we've set up kind of friends groups. So we've gone beyond the necessary. And actually, one of the team members who will be coming on board will be specifically a community engagement officer who works with the communities. We've got similar programs that I didn't discuss that our team run. The Bathscapes program, and they have a whole kind of volunteering and community engagement program. So there's a precedent within our team to do that. But yes, it does take resource, and you do need to do it correctly. So it is something we struggle with when we are quite slim as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, it's and there's so much going on around the country. It's just really nice to hear about new schemes, and this is really nice because it runs through the whole city. So it's not just a small thing happening in one location. It's yeah, really powerful. A question for Sisay. The temperature differences actually between the woodland, grassland and the lake areas, weren't that obviously the difference between that and built environment was quite strong, but there weren't many differences between the woodland and the grassland, for example. Did you sort of have any thoughts on that?
I think this is a good question actually. Yeah, especially in the 2022, when, as I said in my presentation, like there is a limit for each type of nature-based solution. For example, when it is too extreme, for example, grasses were dying by themselves rather than preventing us. They were dried actually at that moment. So because of the differences came probably because of the excessive heat and they are not able to cope by themselves. They died, and at that moment I think woods have a high chance of survival and can because at that moment temperature reached actually 41 point something, which were recorded in the UK. So maybe the difference came from the extreme, two extremes. Yeah, the reason why we say typology will matter.
And did you look at when? So did you look at the time profile of temperature change? So for example, if the grass was dying off, then it's not transpiring. So maybe the cooling provided by grassland stops earlier than the cooling provided by the trees because you get the shading from the trees. Did you look at that?
The temperature profile, I think, not really. What we have done, I think this work is published by Dr. Jitendra Rao. I think, if I correctly remembered, we have just looked, during daytime, nighttime variation, seasonal variation, and we calculated only, the duration for how long, for consecutive days, how long the temperature is actually, like duration and the frequency of those heat waves. I don't think we have seen the temperature profile.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. But again, a really fascinating study. So thank you both very much. Well, that draws our webinar to a close. We've just got a closing slide just to invite you to the next webinar, which is on 7th of February. So Ngok T. Nguyen is talking about her work on unveiling voices, exploration of public insights in consultation and code design. And McKenna Davis is talking about the Urban Governance Atlas, enhancing local action on nature-based solutions. So I would encourage you to register and join up for that webinar in a month's time. And just a reiteration of, if you want to present your work, then please get in touch with us. And you can also follow us on social media at the links on the slide here. So thank you once again to our two fantastic speakers, and thanks to everyone who's joined. And see you in February. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.